or not the party streams, the watch party thing. Really,
Mm.
really exciting because I was able to go up and cook, and I just put on a movie for the stream, and they were able to watch that while I cooked.
I'm really glad they've got something like that because one of the things that I do like to do on stream is like watch old movies and stuff. You know, things that aren't. Oh shit! Did I lose you?
No, 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 I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Everything froze for me for a sec. Um, yeah, one of the things I like to do on stream is like watch really old movies that are sort of out of copyright, right?
Yep, I've
Yeah,
thought about doing that.
because I do history stuff, so it's like I
You
can
can
catch
watch
those things
like
in.
what's it got, like Citizen Kane or some of the really really old movies like from the 30s,
Some of the
40s.
old Kurosawa movies are out of
Yeah.
copyright now, which made me very happy.
Well, that's sick. Yeah, I mean, imagine a lot of those things are on YouTube. I imagine It's a Wonderful Life is on YouTube. I
There's
don't.
a lot of shit on YouTube, but then I don't know, like, just because it's on YouTube doesn't mean you can shit
Oh
on
no,
stream,
not at all.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be wary of that because there's a lot of copyrighted shit on YouTube.
but it makes it easy to find and easy to watch,
Mm.
as long as it's public domain, right?
I can recommend anybody watch The Devil's Whore. That's on YouTube. That's
I'm gonna go ahead and do this thing.
set in the English Civil War, uh, which was like a rebellion against the monarchy.
I'm not
And I've,
familiar with
but
that
it's
English
hard
Civil
to
War.
say much about it without giving away the plot. But like,
No.
you got Peter Capaldi who played Doctor Who. You know, the old
Yes.
gruff, grumpy guy.
Yep.
He plays Charles Stewart,
Mm.
the king, and it's like it's a blinding fucking performance. I love it. I think it's one of his best performances. That's like a 4-part mini series.
When was
Devil's War. Yeah,
the
and I found that
Devil's
on
War
YouTube the other day.
on YouTube?
It is
Damn.
definitely copyright. I wouldn't
Oh
put it on
yeah, yeah.
stream, but
That's sick. I like Peter Capaldi. I was a huge Doctor Who fan, and Peter
I
was the
love.
last one when I was still watching it.
He's my favorite Doctor for sure.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, by a long shot.
I
I
have
just
a
think he brings a kind of like the script writing for the show at the time wasn't particularly amazing, but like he just carried it. Like he was honestly, I love his energy, sort of like grumpy nihilistic energy. It's good. It's good shit.
I liked it because we went from like three relatively handsome, charming doctors to this new one, and I like that they broke the cycle. There was no there was probably the expectations that the next person, like, let's think about Matt Smith as the doctor, right? That uh, Matt Smith's a fucking hunk, and he is a lot of charm, character, whatever, and then Capaldi comes in, and it's just the complete different
Mm.
doctor. And I think in the first episode they addressed it, right? They said like, yeah, I'm not the same handsome doctor or whatever. This is me though, and it kind of shook the viewers for a second. They said, this is still the doctor. Keep watching, because
Mm.
I think a
Mm.
lot of people didn't like that it was Capaldi
I
compared to
think
Matt.
personally, people want to see the silly fun Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
no,
liked it.
I get that.
So
Anyway,
we are here to talk about
Mhm.
a show. Uh,
mm.
let me find the original Twizzit. Okay, so Wes tweets out. Let me see if I can show this. Boop boop. Their volume is pretty low. Let me turn you up. 1 second. I'm getting
No
a
worries.
notification from the folks. Put the league thing up. Lower this. Do you use she, her, or they, them?
Either's fine.
Okay. Uh, folks, is that better? Let me know. Turned her up. I'm going to adjust just a little here too, and I'm going to assume that you're okay unless anyone says otherwise. So I'm going to go back to you.
Mm.
Cool. Okay, so Wes tweets out that he's doing a show, and it's Mary Catherine is his character that he does when he's dressed in drag. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Mary Catherine. I don't know how often he does Mary Catherine, but I first saw Wes doing Mary Catherine on the Raj Royale sometime last January. That was my introduction
Mm.
to Wes. I didn't know it was Wes at the time. But anyway, so he's brought it back, and he's going to, do one of these Twitch dating shows like Raj has inspired so many other people to do. He's bringing a bunch of people on. He's going to do his character. There's a prize pool and a lot of big names. Casey Tron, Emmy, Clint.
I honestly
Minx.
have no idea who most of these people are, apart from having like cursorily glanced at the Raj Royale every once in a while. I sort of vaguely know who Casey Tron is. I do know who Alabel is, and there was one other person on there that I knew, but I can't remember who the fuck it is. I mean, I know Wes because I've been on a show with him before as
Yeah.
well, right? I think he was on the Big Brain with me. Let me
Yeah.
just get this fucking tweet up so I can be looking at it as well.
Yeah, no worries.
Um, oh, Just a Minx, I think I've seen
Mm-hmm.
on the Raj Royale in the few clips that I've seen, but I don't really know
Yeah.
most of the people on here because I don't follow like that side of Twitch. I guess I'm just like deeply embedded in like the politics side, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't do
Yeah. It's all
yeah
good.
the
Um
basic entertainment side.
so the so there are these people that are coming on, they're gonna do the thing, they're gonna do the dating thing. It's obviously for a joke. Wes put a $500 prize for the winner. Um but he's doing it in this character.
Yeah.
So I wanna start off by giving you a moment to just tell me, because you don't come off and just say this is fucking wrong. Like you don't come out and just
Hmm.
say that. You say you're dubious about this. So I want you to tell me how you're feeling about it.
Yeah, sure. So I guess my worries are like mostly encapsulated in basically the last thing that I said to Wes in his replies, which is oh shit, see it somewhere. Uh, yeah, I said something along the lines of I'm sure I got notifications on it actually. Do 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 do. Um, here we go. Yeah. Do you think that you and your audience are capable of presenting and enjoying a production in which you engage in gender non-conformative behavior without it being the butt of the joke? So, like, some people brought up like drag as an example, and it's like, well, drag is not like, hey, let's go to the show and like laugh at the guy in a dress, right? Drag is like generally a celebration of like non-conformative gender expression.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I've been to many drag shows, and I've always
Mm,
viewed it as that, and not a.
mm.
It's never been a hey, there's a guy that's a guy but dressed up as a girl. So
Yeah,
I agree
I
with
mean,
you
I'm
there.
sure that's what it used to be for a lot of people, but nowadays it's not really that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is the reason why it's not really that, right? Because man in a dress, lol, we kind of recognize as well. I think one, it's just fucking tired, right? Like everybody's kind of bored of that joke anyway. Um, and if you're an SJW like me, you recognize like that kind of comedy being so fucking prolific um, has helped to contribute to the same kind of attitude towards trans people, right? Because as well, especially trans women, because they're just seen as like men in a dress, and then they're the butt of the joke, and you get all that shit. Like the whole like Ace Ventura is such a really great fucking example, right? Where you got uh, you got the trans woman and Ace like is like trying to reveal to the cops that
Right.
it's a trans woman, like starts ripping off her clothes and all this shit, and then he finally manages to like because she's still got a penis, and yeah, and all the cops start like throwing up all over the place, and it's like a massive joke, and the general public don't really like distinguish between like man in a dress lol and trans woman,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and I think that the I with Ace Ventura, uh, you know, I don't mean to do the different time meme, but I think that like just I watched that movie a couple months ago, and I think that for what it is, someone who's despite what some other people on Twitch think, very concerned with trans rights and very much supportive of the trans community, it doesn't evoke that. So maybe we can actually use this as a thread to kind of tie with the West show. Is that when I watch that show, it's not evocative to me of trans panic, transphobia. It's more just like you said, a woman in a dress lol, or a bunch of guys unknowingly kissed a man, right? And I think that that joke, I could see it not having an explicitly discriminatory root, because it's not kissing men. Men kissing men is bad. It's men unknowingly kissing men might be unsettling
Hmm.
to them. And could you not see that as a
Well, yeah, I mean, but like, let's be honest. When um, when doing this kind of humor. Like, it's basically impossible to separate the those people who are like, two men kissing, gross, and uh, a man who happens to be straight accidentally kicking and kissing another man. You know, and why is a man who happens to be straight accidentally kissing another man like all that gross either? Like, there's definitely kind of undertones of transphobia and homophobia in that narrative as well, and transphobia in that narrative. It's yeah, I mean, it's just problematic, lowbrow, played out fucking humor that's like, not necessary and contributes to like harmful narratives in society. That's
So
that's the way I see it.
So do you see it? Because I don't know how well you know Wes, but when Wes isn't doing his character on Raj, and he's come on a few episodes of the Raj Royale, and he's not performed the character, he is very much in line with a lot of progressivism.
I
He,
mean, I've seen him argue on the side of progressivism, right? And I
mhm.
don't know a lot about him, but like, I mean, that's why I was like extremely charitable. I think in my original
Yeah, I don't think you
um
came out swinging at
post.
all.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but uh, but I also have heard people say that he's had like people have raised concerns about this sort of thing before, and that people have I think Izzy Bear won't mind me saying because she posted it publicly. Said Wes saw my first appearance on Raj and begged me to come on the second time, and Raj had to ask me if it was okay if he was dressed as a girl, and I shrugged it off on the same assumption until in the show, Wes was like, "I'm just like you, Izzy. We're the same, right?" Like,
So I
that's like super fucking yikes. And if that's the kind of like views that he holds, then I can't for a second
no,
like
I
bring
I
myself to believe that he's doing this responsibly, or that, like I said, the butt of the joke isn't going to be lol, it's a man in a dress, right?
right.
Which is like,
So
yeah.
a
And
couple
and Wes clearly equates this to like
right.
a trans woman. Right?
So
If Izzy is to be believed, right? And I trust Izzy to be relating that truthfully, but other people might not. So I'll leave you to make your own judgments.
yeah, so I would say just from as much as I've gotten to know Wes over the last 6 months, I'm pretty confident that he didn't mean it offensively. It could be tone deaf. It could be a misguided joke, something that
Yeah,
can
that's
contribute to
that's
something with that causes harm. But I will say that just in the context of because we have to consider Wes as a person when evaluating whether or not to what degree the harm is being caused by this uh,
well, yeah. I mean,
thing.
I never I've never once said like, "Hey, Wes, you're a horrible fucking
Right.
person." Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck would you do? You know what I mean, right?
Hmm.
Like, if you say that it's like somebody just doing it, like being ignorant, right? Like of the potential harm that their actions could cause. Like, I think my response was perfectly appropriate for that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's literally like, I mean, I even said I'm sure it's not Wes's intent. He's just trying to have a bit of fun, and I'm just the SJW as to critique everything, you know. So like, it's not like I don't acknowledge that that could definitely be the case.
And
Um,
that's a tough position to be in. I get that. Like I've thought of that as of feminists, of the SJW types, like to be aware of intersectionality or other problematic areas where people think, "Hey, man, it's just a joke," or "That's just the way things are," or whatever the case might be. It sucks to be the person that's always pointing out this is wrong, and I even do it with myself and my own friend groups as I've progressed in a lot of ways socially. I'm the guy that's now like, hey, I'd appreciate if you don't say the N word or things like that. Like
hmm.
when you know that they don't mean it in the way that others would take it, but you're still the one saying, hey, you probably shouldn't. It becomes a point where you feel like a pain in the ass, or like you're the fun police, or you're the one that's just that annoying
Yeah,
fucking
I
screechy
like,
blue
I don't want
haired.
to be the fun police, but like at the same time, I just kind of have lines that there's just, yeah, there's lines that I'd rather people not cross. Yeah, I'm okay with a certain degree of edginess, but like, I worry that, like, you know, if you're not particularly knowledgeable about trans issues and stuff, like, this particular kind of shows like something that's pretty dangerous to do, in my opinion.
So what do you think is
Like,
the
I
potential
can't do
harm?
it in a sensible, sensitive kind of manner. I'm
So
not even sure how you can do it in a sensitive manner. That'd be something that I'd have to think about a lot, but
so
yeah.
to direct it towards me then for a second. To I always when I used to do stand up comedy as an amateur, and I always wanted to do a show in drag, kind of as an homage to Eddie Izzard, who's one of my favorite comedians.
Yeah.
Eddie Izzard is well, he used to call himself a transvestite, and now he calls himself transgender,
Mhm.
and it's just something that I always wanted to do to him, or
Yeah.
do because of him. But uh,
Mm.
to what we understand now about how you can do things that can cause harm without intending them to, how would you have felt about that if this
Honestly, I think you could probably do that sensitively, yeah. As long as like, the fact that you're actually a cis guy isn't like part of the joke, right? If it's not
mm-hmm,
like I say, it's like super fucking simple to be honest, right? Um, if part of the joke is lol, it's a guy in a dress, ha ha ha, isn't that ridiculous, right? Like, then you're probably on the route to being okay. And if your particular act is supposed to be an homage to a person who is like gender diverse, who who identifies in that way, yeah, I don't really see a problem with it. Although I do have my own problems with Eddie Izzard later on down the line. But like, yeah, like,
so how would you feel like what's a way that Wes could engage in this that you would feel comfortable without completely throwing the character out and just doing it with him as his cis self? How could you feel comfortable with this?
I mean, that's what I said, right? I'm not altogether sure that there is a way for him to do this, like sensitively, given the audience that he's playing to as well, right? Like, given his lack of knowledge and sensitivity on trans issues, based on what Izzy reported, and given the kind of audience that he has, I don't think I think I think it being lol, look at Wes, the like overweight dude in a dress, like is always going to be part of the joke, right? And that's kind of sad even for him because that's like a little bit sizist or whatever, right? Like that's kind of mocking people for their weight. But like I I I just know that kind of audience, like that's probably going to be part of the joke. So
Okay, so I get the idea that it's overplayed. I don't know if that has too much relevance to this part because yeah, the joke might be
no, I mean
overplayed,
you can
but
do overplayed, kitschy,
yeah,
fucking shit on Twitch, right? Like
yeah.
people love that shit. It's a nostalgia buzz,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But there's like other reasons that it's overplayed.
I mean, the people of I mean, it might be because you're British and like every British show, from like 1960 to 1990 had a man in a dress. So maybe I can
Yeah, quite a lot of them.
as
It
an
was
English
a it was a
woman, yeah.
particularly popular TV trope. I wonder, I haven't thought about that before, but maybe there's some connection there to like um why like turf ideology is so popular in England. I don't know. I'll have to like um yeah. At least, yeah. Britain seems to be sort of like the um I don't know, what would you call it? Like the center of the epidemic when it comes to like transphobia in the West at the moment. And perhaps there's like a hangover from our earlier kind of like everybody was raised on these kinds of shows. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's some kind of connection there or not. I don't know.
Because we had
Sorry, it's a tangent, but I guess it's
no,
like
no, no.
I was just like that's an interesting point. Maybe it's worth exploring.
I think
I'll
to
have to do some
Americans,
research.
as an American, I think to Americans that there might be a little more, unmilked humor, I guess, from it because like
Hmm.
what
I mean,
the
you still had it, right? Like you had fucking. I think
we've
yours
had
came a little bit later though, like Big
White
Mama's
Girls,
House
Big
and
Mama's
fucking White
House,
Girls and
Mrs.
yeah,
Doubtfire. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of that, like I guess on one side, like Mrs. Doubtfire is much older, but like the rest of these seem to be. And forgive me if I'm wrong because I haven't actually seen any of these apart from Big Mama's House. I think I saw Mrs. Doubtfire back in the day, but yeah, um, it seems to be like connected more to like African American culture as well, right? So like I guess
Joanna
like
Man,
does it has
White Girls. Yeah.
the average white dude like sat down, watched, and laughed at like White Girls and
I did.
Mrs. Doubtfire, not Mrs. Doubtfire, Big Mama's House.
I've seen both. Big Mama's House usually when it was on TV after theaters and coming out to DVD, and then White Girls I saw at the drive-in theater when it came out, so I do remember that one.
Mm.
And then Joanna Man, I remember seeing that. We rented that one, but yeah, no. So I think that here's my interpretation, right? Because I try to be extremely charitable with the little bit that I know of Wes over the last few months of getting to know him. I don't think that his heart is in the bad place of trying to cause harm to the trans community, and I think he's very much he very much cares about people like Lumi. Even though I know they were going at it a little on Twitter,
Mm.
he is. I think he's. Oh no, I know he's a good person. I think that he is not doing this as a jab towards trans people. But I think
Yeah, I
that
mean, I'm not suggesting necessarily that he is. I'm just suggesting that he can't. Um, he's not in a position to like engage responsibly in this kind of behavior because, like, inadvertently or no, you still end up doing that. You still end up legitimizing that as a form of humor, as a humorous narrative. And you know, likewise, if you say that like part of it is like, I just kissed a man, like this is also just as fucking bad, right? You're not like, that's not even a defense. That's just adding more layers of like problematic fucking ways in which this can be interpreted by his audience. And yeah.
so to break it down a little further. So we have the man in the dress bit, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
already talked about how that could be done in a way that isn't trying to be any make any
Well,
kind
yeah, I
of
mean, if
anti-trans
it's
implications.
it's super simple. If that isn't the butt of the joke, then you're probably on the way to it being okay, right? But yeah.
Well, I mean, so I'm not fully comfortable with that because I still think there are people who find the man in the dress funny, and I think we can talk about social norms and all that. I think that
Mm.
even if we're more accepting of gender nonconforming people, which I believe that you and I very much are, um, I think that you can still find something funny in that sphere. So you can see the
Well,
gender.
for some people, I mean, just even ignoring trans women, right?
Mhm.
For some people, like being a man who wears a dress, that's like just how they are. That's what their gender expression is. And for that to be a joke to people, that's incredibly harmful to them.
But I mean, I think that when we say that, we go down a territory of like the number of people that are going to be uh, affected by that joke are very small, and I think that there's a
Mm.
lot of humor. Right? There's really very little
They're very
humor.
small, but they probably receive a hell of a lot more shit than the average person, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely. I think
it's
that.
like it's like if everybody in the country right now, okay, um, I don't know, broke out in a sudden sweat that lasted for a couple of minutes, right?
Mhm.
You'd be like, oh shit, that kind of sucks. Everybody was like mildly uncomfortable, right? But like you probably, it might be news because it's interesting, but nobody would be like, oh my god, we have to stop this ever happening again, right? But if one person gets fucking like brutally tortured and killed, you're fucking like incredibly shocked. People are like, yeah, this probably definitely shouldn't happen again, and we should probably have like safeguards in place or whatever, or find the person responsible, right? There should be action taken about this, right?
The person who
Um,
caused the massive sweat.
and yeah, yeah. So so like you can see how like um the severity of the situation, like
Well, I mean,
it,
that happened when Shakira and J Lo rubbed butts together on the Super Bowl, and they didn't go after them.
fair enough. And that's what I mean. Nobody wanted to stop that happening again, right?
But
So
no, I get what you're saying. I think so. Having been like a comedy fan for a long time, I think that not every joke's for everyone, and not everyone's going to find it funny. And I think that a lot of humor. I think it's very hard to take. If you went through some of the best comedy albums of the last 20 years, I think it's very hard to find material that doesn't, in some way, shape, or form, pinpoint something that would cause even a very small group of people to be upset, uncomfortable. It was something that negatively impacted their life, whatever it
sure,
might be.
but again, there's a difference between like one-off jokes and like a continuous narrative that's lasted decades and contributed to a view of trans women in society that is demonstrably fucking harmful. Do you know what I mean? Like the occasional off collar joke and
Hmm.
like
Well, so that's
yeah,
the
I,
thing.
I
Like, we look at the individual, right? We look at the, if I show you an album from Robin Williams, right, and he makes a homophobic joke, um,
well, I mean,
or a
Robin
joke that,
Williams was Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
yeah.
So
Well, but if we look at the joke, I'm sorry. Okay. Um, Jerry Seinfeld, right? One of the cleanest
sure.
comedians, most successful clean comedians. And let's say that he has a
I don't
joke
really
that,
know much about Jerry Seinfeld, but I do know that there are a lot of people who have like pretty serious critiques of Seinfeld as well.
okay,
Like, I
let me
just
just say that
just
as a
because it's been just because it's been done doesn't mean like it's.
no, but what I mean is, so but let's just take Seinfeld. Let's say he has a homophobic
Oh,
joke. He makes that joke. It's only one. Like, we go through his entire body of work, but we still
mhm.
evaluate that person, right? When he does that joke. If it's like
Well,
every
yeah.
special
I
he
mean,
has a,
and I haven't said. I think what we would do is we would say, "Hey, Seinfeld, you probably shouldn't be making those jokes, buddy. It's a bit it's a bit out of order, right?" Which is like essentially what I've done to Wes, except even with even a lighter touch. I've just gone, "Hey, I'm a bit dubious about this. I really don't think it's it."
well, so
You know?
no. So see, that's what I'm getting at. Like, I personally wouldn't do that. Like, if he makes one homophobic joke over, a 40-year career, and it's one joke at the expense of the gay community, I'm not going to look at him and deride him as a homophobe, or say he doesn't need to make that joke,
That's not
because
what
I
I've done.
believe.
I
No,
don't
no,
want you
no,
to
no. I'm
mischaracterize
no,
me
no, no,
here.
no.
That's not what I've
we're,
done.
we're getting to a point, so I'm not mischaracterizing.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, you look at his body, so of work. So I would say with Wes, as he engages in this, while he has seen, from the sounds of it, because I hadn't seen that episode that Liz, is it Lizzie?
Izzy.
Izzy, that Izzy is talking about. I haven't seen that episode with Raj, but I'll take it at face value and say, he might have made an insensitive comment here and there, but I think overall he has been
Mm.
pro-trans, pro-non-binary, pro-LGBT
Pro
community.
women.
Uh, I assume so. I,
I
I I mean,
mean,
I know he's made some. So I will say, I know he's made a lot of jokes like that, but I think that the female community alone, compared to the LGBT plus community,
mm.
has dealt, like, the
Do you think he's
LGBT has
like? Do
dealt
you
with a
think he's
lot
like
more.
generally mindful of not being ableist or?
Um, Probably not. Like, I don't think, but not in like
Did
a
he let you
hateful
reply to
or
the
a
comments?
disregarding kind of way. Like, I think you can be not mindful and aware. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I think that you
Mm-hmm.
can be aware of those issues, be sensitive to those issues, and then still engage in edgy humor. And I think that's what Wes is. I think he
I
is
mean,
mindful. I don't think he'd ever tell someone, I like make hurtful comments intentionally. I don't think he'd make jokes in a sensitive moment. Um,
well, I mean, that's the point, right? Like, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, shit can still be harmful.
mhm,
And if it's unintentionally, then surely by drawing attention to it, the reasonable person, if you're like, hey, I don't want to intentionally cause harm, you call attention to it, and then it's their choice, right?
mhm.
Because if they then continue to go on doing that, like clearly they're doing it intentionally, you know?
Yeah, and but I don't see that as the case here. I see Wes's show. I can see the problematic nature, kind of like the no, I don't want to invoke that. Never mind. I can see where jokes, humor, bits, whatever, can have a problematic nature. For instance, I mean, where the last 5 years have been really huge for the trans community, right? And I think that it's incredibly important to be
Yeah, good
mindful
ways
of
and bad
things.
ways, but yeah.
Yeah, I personally, as a non-trans person, feel that the trans movement has gone very, very far in a very good
Mm.
direction.
Yeah, no, we've made great ground, but there's also been like a lot of pushback. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
I
mean, we
mean,
can talk about that another time, but
yeah,
yeah, essentially.
fast progression definitely gets fast pushback.
Mm-hmm.
And but I view, I think we can be mindful of those situations and still engage in some humor that might, like, we don't have to take a break from that for 20 years until the trans community is seen as equal across the board, and they're simply outliers that feel otherwise. I don't think that we have to pause all humor that might come at the expense, or in which I believe this is the case, implicitly at the expense of the trans community. But then again,
Hmm.
I don't explicitly believe that cross dressing is a potentially transphobic issue
Well, no,
exclusively.
I mean if it's like part of your general kind of like expression, and I mean we keep going back to it, right? If
Hmm.
it's the butt of a joke, then it's problematic. Then if it's just like part of who you are and what you're doing, or you know, or you're doing it to honor somebody else in some way, I don't necessarily see it as problematic. We can get into like you know men playing trans women actors or whatever at
Hmm.
another point, but like I think that all these critiques are valid, and it's worth having these conversations about them, though, right?
Yeah, no, and that's the
Just
thing is I don't think that even I do see a disagreement between you and I. And I think the disagreement is that I think that Wes can engage in this responsibly. I think the joke can be haha man in a dress. I also think that if I look at the just this setup of the show, even without hearing anything that's going on, if I look at it, I'm like, okay, it's kind of funny because we know Wes to be a cis man, a straight, and we see both men and women coming after him. And I think even one non-binary person. And they're all vying for his love, and he's
mm.
playing this character.
I mean, I did mention Alabelle in my
Yeah,
post
yeah.
as well. I've also sent Alabelle a post on Discord. I don't want to shit on Alabelle too much because I know they've had a lot of fucking harassment and uh, and they've had some personal shit in their life as well that they've spoken about on stream recently. So, you know, I don't want to go too hard on them at
Oh
all.
yeah, yeah.
But I disagree entirely with them endorsing this particular program, and I yeah, considering the position they're in, like I'd expect them to know better, to be honest.
Yeah, I hmm. I'm sorry. So just I'm trying to keep up on the thread in case anything new pops up.
No, it's
But
fine.
no, I understand the sentiment. I really do. And so I want to say that, like, to give, because you did, tag me and all that. I do want to say that,
Hmm.
I'm conscious of this stuff. I go a lot off my gut instinct, and if it doesn't immediately evoke a sense of being problematic, I'm okay with it until someone like yourself comes through and kind of brings attention to it. Um,
I'm not gonna like horribly shit on you for just like commenting on the
oh
fucking thread,
no,
you know.
yeah.
But like,
Oh, I didn't mean it that.
um,
Yeah, no, I didn't
this,
take it that way.
I mean, that's why I also worded like the thing to you guys like pretty carefully as well, right? I was like, I can't remember what I said exactly. I think it was essentially where is it? Um, yeah, there was it. There it was. I consider you guys friends. I'd ask maybe just a moment of contemplation in this case before promoting it, right? Like at no point am I like, "Hey, fuck you! How dare you?" You know,
Yeah.
none of that shit's going on. It's
So
just like, hey, guys, just a moment,
do you
you
have?
know.
So you don't have any rapport with Wes?
Not really. You know, I've like I say, I've been on the same show as him. I think maybe twice, at least once. So, but that's literally about it. I
If
don't think
you,
we've really interacted all that much.
if it was me, let's say that I was one, because you and I have interacted quite a bit on
Hmm.
Mindwave shows and Leon Cipher shows and all that. If you and I had it, if it had been me, would you have done the same, or would you have reached out to me directly and talked to me about it? This isn't a call out to you. This
Um,
is just curious. Like, I want to now talk about like how to address these kind of things and be effective.
hmm. I think I probably would be like, hey, you you probably ought to take that down and like talk to some trans people about it. Um, you know, and maybe rethink the whole situation. And then if you didn't like take it down like pretty quick sharp, I would feel obligated to write something about it publicly, because as I said to Wes earlier, like um a public promotion of a harmful narrative. Uh, let me just find the. I'm so much better at writing things than I am at speaking them off the cuff.
I feel you,
But,
sister.
let me find where I wrote this as well. Yeah, I said. Yeah, I said essentially the event is public, therefore the criticism is public. I'm not just speaking to you about this. Uh, but when harmful narratives are pushed publicly, it's the responsibility of those with the platform and the knowledge to do so to offer counter narratives for the purpose of general education and not allowing those narratives to proliferate unchallenged. So yeah, I think because we have a particularly friendly relationship, I think I would approach you and be like, hey, could you take this down and maybe talk to some people before like going ahead with this shit. But yeah, I would even with you, I would give a limited amount of time before like making a public post about it, because it's like, how long do you leave these things up there unchallenged for, right?
No, I don't disagree with that. I say that again, I think that we agree a lot on harm reduction, being cognizant, and things like that.
Mm,
You and I disagree about whether or not he should move forward with this. I don't see a problem with it in the sense that um, uh, I'm putting my I'm looking through the charitable lens of knowing him
mm.
and
Well, I
knowing
mean,
that
I guess we'll see, but I think you'd probably be. I mean, I don't know.
because I also
I think it would be disingenuous to say that you think that this show, with as many fucking viewers as it's probably going to have, is not going to have any fucking like problematic shit being said and ignored and allowed and proliferated in the chat, right?
so that's the if we talk about responsible execution of something like this, like severe chat management, like having fucking a few extra mods and people on watch to shut down any
Mm,
kind of really dumb shit, maybe adding a few extra blocked words like tranny or transvestite or shit like that,
mm.
removed from the chat during that, and a few other precautions. I still think you can engage with the man in the dress haha joke, and also he puts on a
I
character.
just don't think you can engage with the man in the dress haha joke without it being like
So
problematic.
what
Because
is
even if you make that joke more acceptable, even in the way that you're talking about, you inadvertently make it acceptable, like in the in the other form, right? Because the two are like so fucking closely and intrinsically linked that it's like impossible to tell which way somebody's laughing about it at all.
hmm,
And it's about the attitudes of people in general, right? It's
do
about
you
their internal thought processes and like what's acceptable to them.
so if they get, I'm
And
gonna these people are gonna get like 2 to 5,000 viewers, maybe more. So
yeah,
if
it's
out
gonna it'll be pretty big. Yeah.
yeah, so out of that, if that happens, like what is your because I think that I don't expect you to put like an exact measurement on it. That'd be fucking absurd. But I do have a curiosity, like to what degree do you view it as like that's your cutoff for acceptable harm? Like that you could that if one person walks away, are you like nope, that's too many? One person walked
Well,
away feeling
here's the point, right? Like when you say acceptable harm, like um that means that you're making a kind of equation where you're like, okay, this harm is justified because of what? Right?
so
Like in my calculations, like my moral calculations, I would have to say this harm is justified because there is a greater good, right? And even then, like it would be a complex fucking discussion, but like at the very least, I think you'd have to prove that there is some sort of like greater good involved, and I just don't see that. I think that Wes could do any number of fucking shows, and he could just do a different show without causing the harm at all.
I'm going to use myself as an example again. I had a very close member of my family commit suicide, but I
Mm-hmm.
find I like when people used to say kill yourself and like about the most absurd shit, I used to find it hilarious because I thought it was an absurd thing to say. Like if someone says, "Hey, did you forget your potions again?" and someone says, "Shut up,
Yeah.
kill yourself." Like I used to think that was funny. I still think it's funny. Suicide jokes don't bother me. Fucking like when my best friend and I were walking back to his truck from getting groceries one day, he said something about his dad, and I said, "Oh man, I wish I had a dad because it was my dad that killed himself." And so I find these funny, but I believe that people telling suicide jokes, there are people in this world because suicide is a real thing. It's a serious thing. There are people who are negatively affected by it, right? But I would
Mm-hmm.
say that humor is subjective. Not everyone is going to like it. And while there is going to be harm caused, if I make that joke in front of 5,000 people, there are going to be people in that audience that are going to hear it and they're going to feel something bad about it.
Yeah,
And
right. Like I think you recognize that like people saying kill yourself, right, and that like allowing this to be an acceptable fucking thing to say to each other causes like measurable harm, because
well,
people who might feel inclined towards doing that like
no,
could
see,
feel more
that's
inclined after repeatedly told to do it.
that's the thing is
Right?
like I actually don't feel that way. Like I think there is going to be harm, and when I say measurable, I mean that it is known. in this case. Like, it is known. You
Okay,
say a
sure.
suicide
No,
joke.
it's like impossible to measure. Sure.
Yeah.
I think you can say that there is demonstrable harm. Then maybe not measurable,
Yeah, like,
demonstrable.
you know that someone is going to be hurt by it, right? We know that.
Yeah,
There's going to be
but I mean,
someone in that audience.
I think you know that a lot of people are going to be harmed by it, right?
Well, so that's my question. Like, but I would never tell anyone to not say that joke. Now, I'm a little biased
What?
because I find a lot of those
So,
jokes funny, but it's
I
like
mean,
what,
I'd ban somebody from my chat. Destiny would ban somebody from his Discord for telling people to kill themselves.
and that's
Like,
because he's
this is
evolved.
kind of
Yeah,
like a norm that we've like established pretty much in the more progressive side
but
of
have
the
we?
Twitch
Has
community,
everyone
right?
done it
It's like,
because they've
yeah.
adopted it, or have they done it because they know they get in trouble if they don't correct it?
Um, I
This
think. Well, I mean, you're asking me to make a generalization of the entire community. It's probably a bit of both.
Right. So my thing is, when it comes to humor, is that there is going to be harm that happens, and I don't think that humor should be completely disregarded if it causes harm just because it causes harm. I think that, for instance, gamers saying the N word, right, in a a way that I think could be agreed is not intended to be explicitly harmful to the African American community, but we don't accept it because there is a known harm to normalizing that kind of language, right? So we don't do it.
Mm.
We police it. We try to shut it out ourselves. That's why I stopped saying it. But that doesn't. But there are other things. So it's like, we do. The black community is going through a lot of shit. They've gone through a lot of shit since people brought them over to this country, and we're trying to reduce that harm, right? But we can't do that about every type of joke that is going to upset someone. So that's why, going back to the trans issue, I ask, like, if one person walks away feeling empowered to go make transphobic comments, is that one too many and that's where it ends for you? Or is it like 10% of those people walk away feeling empowered and then going off and spreading their hate to the world? I'm curious, like, to what degree,
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're asking me to put like a specific number on it.
not as specific, but just like, is it like any harm at all is done for you? Or is it like, if you consider, if you watch someone like
Well,
Destiny's
okay.
Audience.
So, um, I think probably the best way to respond to this is just to say that, like, I think that if you accept and recognize that harm could be caused, then it would be your moral like obligation to work out whether or not that harm is like justified in pursuit of a greater like uh non-harm, right? Or whatever. So I mean, obviously, for example, there's only a certain extent to which you can take like the policing of other people's language, like if they're not, because right, I'm not saying that like Wes should go to fucking jail for like doing this shit, right? Like, um, because that's probably the greater evil is like incarcerating people for inadvertently making jokes or engaging in humor that could be, that could push harmful narratives that could later cause harm to
Mm-hmm.
other people, right? Like, um, you have to like balance these things out, and I think that the onus is very much on the like content producer to like to do this to engage in this critical thought of like what they're engaging in, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I disagree with
And if
that.
and if
Like,
and if Wes won't
sentiment,
and if Wes
yeah.
won't accept that it's problematic in any way, then there's absolutely no way in which he can engage in that calculation, if you like.
Yeah. I see the points where we agree and where we disagree, and I think in really
Uh-huh.
everything, like, there's a lot of it intertwined because there's nuance to this situation, right? It's not just a black and white, men dressing as women equals an immediate transphobic joke and therefore it shouldn't be done. It's not as clear as that.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's context and circumstance that could make that okay. I'd, I'd say generally in comedy, it's probably, you know, um, if it's a cis dude, it's probably not going to be good, right? But like, there are such situations in which like a person sensitive to those with alternative gender expressions could do that in a sensitive manner. Of course, there is. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so I don't want to.
So I think it's fair to ask when it is a cis dude. I think it's fair to ask, hey, are you doing this in a sensitive manner? Like, which is essentially what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that goes back, and I apologize if I'm making you repeat yourself, but what is the sensitive way that he could do this and still go
Yeah,
forward with
exactly.
it?
I and I'm not sure that Wes can do this, right? Just because of his audience,
Okay,
and also because of his general um
so let's cut
attitude.
Wes.
I don't think
Let's
he's
say me,
sorry.
who doesn't really have an audience. I have what, 11 people
Mhm.
watching me. You know, let's say it's me.
Or it'd be about what are the jokes like? If this is a comedy show, why is it funny, right?
Hmm.
Is it like I just if it's funny because it's you in a dress, like I don't see it. I don't see how it can not like contribute to that harmful narrative,
So would you say that not so
given the
much?
historical context, right?
So would you say that
This
in
is sorry.
no, it's okay. In that situation, would you say that it's not so much the propensity to be transphobic, but it makes you uncomfortable that it could be transphobic or taken as transphobic?
Um, no, I mean I think it pretty much always is kind of transphobic to be laughing at haha man in a dress, or at the very least like it's insensitive towards those, or bigoted, even prejudiced towards those who engage in like a 10 biggest fans, lol. Um, yeah, it's prejudiced towards those who engage in like a non-conformative expression of gender, right? Whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like it's always going to be harmful to like
So,
that group at
okay.
least. So
So going back to the Ace Ventura example, so I'm going to draw a corollary here,
sure.
or
I
correlation.
mean, can
So
we at least agree that that was pretty fucking egregious?
the Ace Ventura thing. Well,
Yeah.
so this is the thing. Like, it depends on what your outlook on it is. Like if it's
Okay.
men, like what we talked before, if it's men kissing men is bad, that's problematic. If it's men unknowingly kissing a man because it's not their preference, kissing a man is funny. Um, that
She's
I
not
believe
a
could
man.
be
She's
a.
trans.
I'm sorry.
Hmm? She's not a man though. She's a trans woman,
Well,
right?
right, but I think from the if we go with the spirit of the narrative, they weren't trying to show a trans woman. They were trying to
No,
show,
you're right. Absolutely, they were trying to show a man who has like had a sex change and stuff, but is still in all
and
like essence a man, right? Which is in and of itself an extraordinarily transphobic narrative.
I
No.
think if I remember the movie correctly, because it used to be my favorite movie as a kid, of course, because I was a smart ass little shit who wanted to talk out of his ass like Ace Ventura. I always wanted his pants too and his hair, but my mom wouldn't let me
Oh,
have
I
either.
thought it was fucking hilarious when I was a kid. Yeah, but
So I
yeah.
think that the I think the with that, I think the spirit of the situation. Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought. God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that fuck. I'm gonna go with the original point. If I remember that point, I'll go back to it. But
Okay.
with it, so I interpret that as it's men accidentally kissing a man,
Mm-hmm.
thinking it was a woman, and I think the
Yeah,
that
gross, absolutely vile, disgusting.
I
Throw up all
think
over the place.
as a man who doesn't like to kiss men, I would that
Yeah.
idea
Do you
as a
think
man
you'd
who
throw
is
up if you accidentally kissed a dude, or you'd just go, "Oh, whoops, Daisy, I kissed a dude"?
I mean, if I look at my buddy over there and I think about kissing him, it does kind of give me a gag reflex.
All right.
I mean that genuinely, like, yeah.
this
So
requires like a deeper analysis of like why
as
you'd feel, because if your buddy over there, right, like had a fucking like face off style fucking replacement of his entire fucking anatomy, because somehow, obviously the body shape changed when they
yeah,
like
but
swapped
like if
places. That was pretty great.
yeah, but if it's still his tongue and teeth and
You
shit in
don't know,
there,
like
yeah. But then I
so
find out,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, like definitely,
but
like.
why?
Well, it's like if someone gave you a cookie with piss baked into it, and someone said, "By the way, my piss was in that cookie," like, we'll go with shit because piss is sterile. I might not gag as much. But if someone said, "By the way, there's some dookie in those brownies," yeah,
Well, yeah,
I'll
but
probably
there's perfectly good
fucking
reason to be like grossed out
grossed
by the
out because you don't
shit,
want your mouth on shit. I don't
no,
want my
because it
mouth
could
on
give
my
you
friend.
no, because it could give you a fucking disease. It can make you sick. Like, there's a
That's
reason
not
you're
gonna.
fucking disgusted by this.
You're
Like,
right,
kiss your friend, that's not gonna happen.
but that's not gonna be the. By the way, I love where this conversation has gone.
Yeah, he doesn't love shit sandwiches.
uh, But my
I
point is
feel
that
like this whole conversation's a shit sandwich, honestly. But like, I was the person who buttered the bread, so.
so it no, but I think it's good. I think it's like I don't think we're just I don't think we're having an unproductive back and forth. I think
Oh
we're
no, I didn't mean it in that way. I just meant I do. It might seem that like, because I'm all fucking SJWE, that I really like getting into these kinds of conversations and shit. But actually, I'm like really fucking tired. I wish everybody just got it already. You know, like
as someone.
I think as somebody who's been like dealing with transphobia and bigotry and
Mhm.
so on for like most of my adult life, like I've had similar conversations to this like millions of times. I'm just like, I'm at the point now where it's like, ugh, I really do wish everybody just got it already, but they don't, so I have to keep talking about it, right?
And that's a privilege I acknowledge, is that I have never had to live through what you have, or what people with the lesbian community, the gay community, the bisexual community,
Hmm.
the non-binary people.
Well, I wasn't asking you to like acknowledge your privilege or anything
No,
like
no,
that, but
no. But I
I
mean
was
that.
just saying that like I don't know, people seem to think that like people like me get some kind of glee or satisfaction about like having to continuously talk about this shit, and actually no, like you'll see enough people just post on fucking Twitter day in day out fucking I'm tired. You search I'm tired on Twitter, you'll see so many fucking posts by people of color and trans people on the internet just going I'm tired, I'm fucking exhausted,
No,
because it's day
yeah.
after day day after day.
No, but I meant that genuinely, like just throughout the discussion we've been having, like you're coming from your worldview and I'm coming from
Mm,
mine, and I acknowledge that there's
of
privilege in
course.
that, and that I've not had to live with what you've gone through, so that when I analyze Ace Ventura, I have the privilege of not having someone discriminate me against me for being transgender, and therefore I
Hmm.
can take a view, whether it's more objective or more subjective or lacking the subjectivity of yourself. When I analyze it, I have that privilege to come to the conclusion I do without the bad experiences that you've had, or and the good experiences. But I don't have those experiences, so I want to say that I do acknowledge that, because I think it's important, um, and I think my self awareness to it does help me be a little more um, considerate, I guess, in these discussions.
Mm,
Um, so with that, if I view it as men accidentally kissing men when they don't like to kiss men, as a
hmm,
non-homophobic, non-transphobic plot
mm,
moment. I don't know if we call that plot, but if that's part of that, I would equate that to Wes being able to engage in I am a man playing a woman, and while there are people who are gender nonconforming that dress in dresses, and there are people who are transgender who are born male now identify as female, um, etc., that even though that is a real thing, that it can also just be in a vacuum. Men dress like you're not, that man does not normally dress in dresses, therefore it's funny. Like without a jab at transgender people, without a jab at people who cross dress as part of their identity. I don't know if cross dress is part of identity is the proper way to say that. I don't know that proper way if I'm talking about a
no,
non transgender person.
it's fine.
Okay. So do you get what I'm saying with that though?
Yeah, I do get what you're saying with that. I think it, I mean, I just don't see that being what Will's doing. Sorry, Wes is doing at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It seems unlikely to me. But like I say, I did give him the opportunity to like explain it, and he was like, "Hey, motherfucker, fuck you, fucking fucker, I'll fuck you
Just
up,
like
you triggered fucking fuck." And then it comes back to the fucking triggered thing, which is like problematic in and of itself. And I have to go down this massive fucking rabbit hole where there's like people in my fucking chat relaying stories of how he's like been making loads of jokes about how women are whores, and then when they say that, he replies to them, "Fuck you, retard." And it's like, hey man, this shit just never fucking stops. So how the fuck am I supposed to believe that you're going to be engaging in this first thing responsibly? You know?
yeah, no, I want to say that to wrap it up, I understand where you're coming from. I respect that. I also believe that if this was like someone like, I don't even want to call anyone out, but that I because I'm not confident like that. I know everyone's personality entirely, but like if there was some
Yeah.
super problematic person, let's say Slicker, right? Let's say
No.
no, okay, no. Well, now I got to clarify this. I'm not saying Slicker is a transphobic or homophobic person. I'm saying that Alabrel's view of Slicker. If we were
Mm,
to characterize that, if that itself was a person, which I don't believe it is, was
sure.
doing this, I would say, oh, okay, yeah, this is problematic, right? So
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. I see where this could have a correlation to, transphobic behavior and contribute to it. You and I differ, though, when it comes to Wes, as far
Mm.
as, our belief
I
in,
mean, I still think the
yeah.
other narrative that you've painted is problematic in and of itself. Probably not in the same way.
I think the
The I
problematic is
kissed a
hard
guy
to.
by accident, but like it's like less problematic. But again, it's like super inseparable from the homophobia. Like there's absolutely no way to tell like how people are laughing at that or how people are taking it.
I think
So
that's the tough part.
I think it's best to just fucking avoid it altogether.
I
To be
think
honest.
that's definitely the hard part. I
Yeah.
haven't reached a point in my progressive journey, which has come very fast and very rapidly.
Hey,
Um,
that's fine, buddy. Like we all take time to fucking develop and digest these things and these concepts. Obviously, I believe I'm in the right, but like my my opinions and my perception of events like also changes over
mhm.
time. Like none of us are none of us are like the pinnacle of fucking wokeness or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like we're all on a fucking journey to understanding.
I will
Um,
say this: I think you and I are entirely in agreement that I just wish everyone fucking got it all and we could be done with it.
yeah,
I would
yeah,
love for the internet to. I would love for everything to be perfect so we can stop fucking arguing and so that everything
mm,
stops being a political discussion. We can just go back to playing video games and like watching porn or whatever people like to do.
yeah. But I mean, that's never going to happen, right? Because there ain't no
No.
such thing as perfect, and there's always going to be problems that need solving.
No, and we fucking
In terms of like transphobia, racism, all that sort of shit, like I don't know. There are a lot of people in the world who still hold like pretty much the same worldview as people held like fucking 20, 30 years ago, and that's where my I'm tired comes from. I suppose it's just like, hey, I wish everybody else would just fucking I don't even know. I guess catch up makes me sound like I'm calling them backwards, but it's like, what? I don't really know what
no,
else
I
to
think that's
say.
not. Yeah, I don't think that's an inaccurate way to put it. I think that we've progressed. One of the issues so we mentioned briefly earlier is that we've progressed super fast as a society. I think in the last, I want to say since 2015, I feel like we've gone through
Mm,
major changes. Hell, I'd actually push back to what 12, 2011 when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed.
mm,
That's a lot of change. It's very rapid. And since then, gay marriage has been legalized by the Supreme Court. The trans rights movement has experienced leaps and bounds of success. We've become way more aware of variances in gender identity. I think that a lot has changed for the better. I think we've become more aware as Americans of the plight of the African American community when it comes to law enforcement and
yeah,
systemic racism and oppression. Women
there's a
as well,
there's a lot of good shit,
a
but I
lot.
mean, you know what I do, right? Like generally, outside of the SJW shit, like not only has there been like a lot of advances on the side of progressivism, but there's been a lot of advances on the side of like the far right as well. Um, and it's like keeping those fucking things in checks, like 90% of the work that I think we have to do. And part of that is making sure that we don't fall out of step as well. you
I
know,
I I don't disagree.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, today is National Horny Day. I thought Raj was
Is it?
memeing.
Oh,
Yeah, it is
okay.
National Horny Day.
Well, I haven't seen either of my partners in like fucking shit nearly a month now because of the quarantine stuff. So
Hey, Zoom isn't just for meetings.
I Zoom isn't for fucking anything. Fucking boomish fucking program. Go on Discord.
Hey,
Losers.
listen, I masturbate with Discord, but the workforce doesn't. So,
Yeah.
I got to speak
No,
to them too.
true. A lot of companies capitalizing on the coronavirus to push new substandard products to boomers who don't know any fucking better. Isn't there like there's like a Facebook thing as well, isn't there? They're like selling a complete like aren't they selling essentially a tablet with like a meeting program like installed on it that's literally just for using that meeting program?
I have not heard of this at all. I
I
am
think
going
it's
to have
called
to research
is
this.
it Facebook Portal? I think they're selling that.
Facebook portal. What the
I'm
fuck?
not sure. I don't know a lot about it. I just heard someone mention it on the radio the other day, and
This
I was
is
like,
real. You're not wrong. What the fuck?
yeah.
If you can't be there, feel there with Portal. Oh my fucking creep.
Like, honestly, the fucking exploitation of boomers, basically. Like,
I
it's
don't
depressing.
know. Like it's like the Amazon. My mom got me. Oh God, I hope she doesn't see this. My mom got me a one of the Amazon screen ones, like the video conferencing ones with the camera and all that,
Mm.
which looks exactly like this Facebook portal. No way in fucking hell that's getting set up.
Yeah.
I'm already a slave to Alexa and turn the lights to blue, and and yeah, my roommate hates when I make him blue. It hurts his eyes. But anyway, yeah, total slave to this technology. The last thing I need is Facebook spying on me directly too.
Yeah. Fucking crazy shit. All right. Well, Lycan, thanks for reaching out, buddy. I appreciate it. I
Absolutely,
understand it's like a difficult thing to engage in, and people often feel like they're being called like bad or immoral people when people raise these kinds of issues. Um, yeah, and I appreciate your measured response.
absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to talk, and it was good talking to you. And hopefully, I'll see you on a show soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
All right,
Much love, buddy.
have a good
Bye.
night. Bye.